Natalia, tell me about Hromadska. What is it, and why is it important?
So it's a television which is from Ukrainian translated, a public television, but launched in the dark times of Yanukovych by the group of political investigative reporters who wanted to do the journalism of public interest, really, not about the tabloid style, sex and drugs as or propaganda. But when the revolution started, we understood that there is a huge demand on the real information, and people wanted to watch us. We didn't need to promote ourselves. The people want to find the way what's happening in the country to have their judgment right. And after the revolution, of course, with the Russian aggression, obviously the people want to know what's happening in the East, in Crimea, what's really happening to the people. Because there are a lot of political debates, geopolitical debates, but you just need to be on the ground and to understand what people feel, what is their motivation. And I think also in the time of war, for us, it's very important. Being a very emotional, sometimes to leave it. It's very hard for us, but to really get the facts.
But listen, you try to get the facts, but one of the powerful, sort of insidious messages of Kremlin propaganda has been you can't trust anyone, that facts don't matter, that everyone is lying, everyone is for sale, and therefore only sensationalism and emotion matter. How do you build up credibility in that context? How do you, keep people's trust?
So it's true, like everybody's corrupt, but I think there is some I do believe that there is some, at least, you can be as close to the truth as it's possible when you're on the ground, when you show what is happening. You can still to interpret, but you don't interpret. For us, we're just very close to the audience. I think people know that we don't look like with all this makeup, like people coming from the theater and talking about a parallel reality. They know where their money are, and they really know that we are not earning with that we are that we are risking our lives. Either it's a Maidan, or we are under the shelling in Donetsk, or I'm going to the occupied territory, being under threat. But I go there to stay with the people, to talk to the people, to often talk to the people who are credible, but on the ground, and more or less show that. With some, of course, editorial judgment, because what is happening now with modern television, that there is a lot of opinion, that you sometimes, you interview a refugee from Donetsk who says, hey, Ukrainian, Nazi, blah, blah, blah. And, and then you should ask, have you seen it yourself? You're speaking about something that happened. Have you been there? No. Who has been? Do you know anybody personally? Oh, it's some neighbor whom I don't know said. Then we don't do that. I know this is an opinion. We can show still that the people in the area think so, but we would never claim that one guy said this, another guy said this, and Kiev says that, Kremlin says that, and figure out it's somewhere in between. But if somebody is openly lying, or if it's just not like that, they are not there. There is no black waters, As one CNN mentioned that there was a quote in the CNN report. There would be some separatist guy who said Black Waters is fighting in Donbass, and there was no anything else in this report. So audience should is lost with the idea, is it there or not? Okay, this guy is not trusted, but you should challenge that in the way. So for us, it's very important to understand that this truth is not between the opinions. It's where you still can get some evidence.
And you find that people that attracts people. Is your audience growing? Do people in the east of Ukraine trust you?
For us, it's very important that the audience is stable, because people they are bombarded with information too much. People can't consume that much media in social networks, which is just thrown at them on the daily basis. So we just want to keep that. We don't produce that much, but we want that what is really important that people do watch.
What do the people in East Ukraine, Kharkiv, in further east? You go there a lot. What are they really talking about? What do they care about? Are they pro-Russian? Are they pro-Kiev? What are they looking for? Who do they trust?
I think that this unjustified generalization is a bigger threat in our current debate. So I would never say West, East. I would be very clarified. There are different people even in the occupied territories. There are Russians, pro-Russian troops, pro-Russian separatists, people who don't have weapons, people who have a Soviet empathy to something, all different kind of people. I mean, now if you speak about Kharkiv in particular, they're thinking, would Russia occupy Kharkiv or not? There would be further war? Now there is a campaign of bombing there, so people would discuss. But people are struggling to live with this trauma of a very, very new war, but at the same time, finding something good in their life as well.
But do you think the Ukrainian, the larger TV channels and propaganda in a good sense, is it managing to integrate those bits of Ukraine, or are they very vulnerable?
I think this kind of, let's say, I don't believe in good propaganda, but this time that there was no spoiling Russian message in the mainstream media, that helped. Because, at least for the majority of Ukrainians in the regions, in different regions, from Odessa to Dnipropetrovsk, let's say, who watch the mainstream networks, they won't challenge the idea of, independent Ukraine. They would be dissatisfied with the president or with the prime minister. They would have different political ideas. But in general, they already know what's happening in the country. But we are lacking definitely more, let's say, information without interpretation, and more because there is a lot of speculation on the daily basis of what's happening where. It's a vast country, so it's very important sometimes to really explain, what's happening for me, it's very important to explain what's really is alive in the occupied territories, what is alive in the frontline towns. I mean, it's war, but for me as a Ukrainian citizen, definitely it's important that we know what's happening in our country in these traumatized and very difficult times.
And what do you think that's inside Ukraine? And what do you think people in the West don't understand about Ukraine? What did they get wrong? And how are you trying to help with that?
I think that people don't treat Ukraine as a democratic state, where the debate is a sign of something good, when the many opinions is not a sign of chaos, where there is a political competition, where there are different media with different opinions. And often people say, like in Russia, there is just one mind, they think like that, and the Ukrainian thinks like that. I don't think that, and we now doing also, we have this effort that we're doing with our Hromadski in English, which is en.hromadski.tv, and also the same in Russian for the audience outside. And for us, it's important to understand, for people who are interested on our shows, that we bridging the reality. If there would be a Ukrainian politician coming to our studio, he would be asked challenged by the journalist and answer the questions which are on the air. And that would be, even if he fails, even if our minister fails to answer and he gives a ridiculous answer or they do something wrong, would me be a bigger sign that the things are okay, that our high-level politician would come on Sunday to the, a small, tiny independent network with low budget and the independent journalists who challenge everybody and would respond. And I wouldn't imagine that in many, many other places in Russia or somewhere else. So for me, that to understand that there is no this Russia versus Ukraine, that Ukraine is something where there is a debate and discussion, and it's not about the East and the West.